Over the years, I have formulated a theory about Broadway openings which you may call Klein's rule. If the overture begins and the curtain rises and an actor comes out and loudly sings, "Broadway, Broadway," pick up your coat and go. Don't wait. It's a guaranteed bamola. You know the first two words sung tonight? Broadway, Broadway. You know what the actor singing this did with his arms? Unfortunately, I decided to stay. What a night. A Broadway musical is a show about a lousy Broadway musical. It concerns a black author who has written a serious play about an aging black basketball star. And a schlock Broadway producer then proceeds to turn it into a schlock brassy musical called Sneakers. We then see the trials and tribulations of mounting the show, complete with egomaniacal star, ill-fitted costumes, and a gruesome theater party booker, a woman who sings in a number entitled Yenta Power, quote, "You must make your show say yassa to the ladies of the Hadassah." When Sneakers opens in Washington, the critics savage it, and the actors themselves call it, quote, crap. If the creators of a Broadway musical tried intentionally to write a loud, tacky, vulgar show with weak musical, awful lyrics, and a witless book, then they have succeeded. But it's not funny. By the way, this is the show that during its tryouts replaced its director and its stars, Julius LaRosa and Helen Gallagher. To them I say, be thankful that you did not open in this show on Broadway, Broadway. This is Stuart Klein.
Robert Plotz saw the show at the Lunt-Fontanne Theater, and he has a review for us.
This Broadway musical is the only one I have ever seen that suggests a bad review to the critics and asks for a good one. Through his own greed, a producer gets stuck with a turkey, and the performers bail him out in this play, which is much too close to what is really happening. To make it all work, we have to sit through scenes from the turkey. Show people should be prohibited from making shows about show business. We might have liked another show within the show called the 1934 Hot Chocolate Jazz Babies Review, of which we only get a small slice because a Broadway musical is about the turkeys of today, not the gems of the past. Tiger Haynes manages to charm us as the old hoofer who remembers the good old days. In real life, a Broadway musical was in trouble. The director was replaced by Gower Champion, that drill sergeant of choreographers, but he couldn't save it. The show won't even learn its own lesson, which is that showbiz exploits blacks. A Broadway musical does it too. It gives black performers paychecks, but almost no chance to perform as blacks. I'm Robert Potts.
Well, first nighters were on hand at the Lunt-Fontanne Theater hoping for a hit, and there was some reason for their expectations. Some of the people involved in this show had a hand in Bye Bye Birdie and Annie, among others. Dennis Cunningham is here to tell us whether the show measures up. Dennis?
Ron, Broadway musical, now that's a title, but wait until you hear the plot. A timid, sensitive young black man has written a serious play. A producer will give it a production only if he can turn it into a glitzy, empty-headed musical. Not that a Broadway musical is precisely a glitzy, empty-headed musical about a glitzy, empty-headed musical, but far too often it comes much too close to that. So it is partly that, partly a satire of itself, partly a plea for racial harmony, partly a satire of Broadway matters. It is, in fact, in large parts, a big in-joke with heavy emphasis on the in and very light emphasis on the joke. Most of the dialogue of the show is witless and woefully inept. On the plus side, most of the music and lyrics are good, sometimes quite good. The cast is bright, exuberant, and enormously talented. Much of Gower Champion's choreography is wildly theatrical and thrilling, but most of it is used to hide what isn't there. The number you're looking at right now is very well done and pointless. You may get some idea of how muddled the play is when I tell you it is probably the first musical to end by celebrating a young man compromising his integrity. Just beneath the dazzling camouflage, a Broadway musical is an unholy mess, but we might as well drink in the camouflage. Well, everyone gives an utterly valiant effort in an utterly losing cause, since no one seems to know just what a Broadway musical is supposed to be about. Robin?
When things aren't going well during rehearsal and previews, the phrase is, the show's in trouble. Well, this show was in more trouble than a 10-year-old kid who found his mother's rent money and spent it on Hershey bars. The show that opened tonight is the umpteenth version of a Broadway musical. That's the title. This Broadway musical is called a Broadway musical. Why? Because it's a Broadway musical about a Broadway musical. Now, a Broadway musical, not this one in particular, everyone in general, needs a few things. A dynamite tune or two, a chorus of high-kicking dancers, and a showstopper who steals the show. A Broadway musical has all of those. But the show opens to a song and dance number that makes the word trite sound like something to aspire to. Ballroom, which opened last week, suffered from the same problem. Maybe it's a trend. Like at a dinner party, you purposely burn the soup so the chicken will taste better. Now, a Broadway musical, any Broadway musical, also needs what they call a book, a story, something to hang the tunes on, and the dance numbers, something to keep the audience sitting there, reasonably attentive when the band isn't playing. And that, this Broadway musical doesn't have. And that's a shame, because some of the pieces are superb, and much of the cast, including one aging, old-time song and dance man, a fellow named Tiger Haynes. Tiger is the show's showstopper. He's the original Tin Man in The Wiz. He is a star. He is so good, he makes everyone else on that stage look like a paper doll. The Tiger roars, but only, don't ask me why, for one number. I'm sorry we don't have him singing on film. That's the best piece in the show. But there are other jewels. Dancin', beautifully choreographed by Gower Champion, and an in-Broadway song about the theater parties that make or break a show called Yenta Power, with a lyric, so pay attention to those girls with hair of blue. But a handful of pearls, even a trunk full of pearls, is no good without a necklace to hang them on. And a Broadway musical, this Broadway musical, is still in trouble. Ernie?